bonsoir. Moi, c'est Reginald. Et moi, content pile que nous là. Donc, nous voulons souhaiter nous bienvenue dans Metamòfoz. Et sous plateforme là, nous avons des gens que nous connaissons déjà. Nous avons Maryse,
Hello, bonsoir.
nous avons Katia,
Bonsoir.
nous avons Tammy,
Bonsoir, bienvenue tout le monde.
nous avons Jenan,
Bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue.
nous avons Margaret.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Et Lucien, saluez-nous, mais il n'est pas là, je veux dire. Donc, c'est un grand plaisir pour moi présenter nous à speaker nous. So, our honored guest is Dr. Clara Njekam, and I'm giving her the chance to introduce herself so we can all get to know her and the great topic that she's going to share with us tonight. Dr. Clara.
Hello, everyone. Bonsoir. Bienvenue. My name is Dr. Clara Abid. I'm a mental health nurse practitioner. So I'm bilingual. I come from a bilingual country, Cameroon. So I speak a little bit of French, not too good. But my primary language for this presentation today will be in English, because that's where I come from, the English part. So it's an honor to have everyone here today. And I really want us to talk on this topic, which is too dear to my heart. It's very close to my heart, suicide. So I'm going to have the slide put up so that we can flow with that. If we can have this slide.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I want us to be comfortable, to break the silence. So I had an overview. Okay, we can go to the second slide so I can just touch a little bit what we're going to be talking today. So we're going to definitely define what suicide is and go through the statistics about suicide, some of the risk factors, protective factors, what are some of the warning signs, some common misconception about suicide, and what can we do to prevent it. And also, I'm going to talk about what family or friends can do before they reach out for help or seek out professional help. And then how can you screen for those individual that is at risk. And of course, I'm going to share some resources. So we're going to move down to the next slide. So, of course, I can't talk about this topic without defining it, what it stands for. Suicide in general is an act of intentionally causing someone's death. Like someone does something to themselves that end up with, them dying. That is suicide. Now, I put suicide attempt to show the difference is that with suicide attempt, it's non-fatal. So the intention there, sometimes they don't die, they survive. And of course, the suicide ideation is just someone thinking about it. Sometimes they have the thoughts of want to hurt themselves. That's what suicide ideation is all about. Now, if we go down to statistics, so those are the differences. And if we hear suicide attempt, and suicide ideation, which is the same as suicide thoughts.
So, real quick, Jenan, tu peux expliquer just suicide attempt avec suicide ideation en créole pour nous?
Ok, et ça, donc, Clara souhaite expliquer nous, c'est que suicide, là, c'est un acte que yon fait sous tête li, qui a causé et qui a dangereux pour lui, pour corps li, et qui a arrivé même causer la mort. Tentative suicide là, c'est un acte que mon fait sous tête li, mais li pas obligé fatal pour lui. Li pas obligé arriver sous la mort. Son tentative, c'est un essai que mon fait et li porte préjudice à col, mais li pas obligatoirement arriver dans la mort. L'idée, ça l'idéalisation, c'est l'idée suicide là, c'est que mon a pensé tout le temps à suicide là. L'a considéré li et lui-même a planifié comment pour le faire. C'est ça l'idéalisation suicide là.
Thank you, Jenan. Dr. Clara?
Yes. So we're going to look at an overview of suicide because a lot of time people feel like this thing doesn't exist because they don't hear it or they probably haven't experienced it. but it does exist. So if we look at the statistics, according to WHO, you can see that suicide is a serious public health issue. Basically, 1 million people are dying from suicide every year. And if we want to break that down, we're looking at one death every 11 seconds. So in 60 minutes, we're going to talk about how many people dying, maybe like 5 or 6 persons dying in 1 minute. So that is a lot from suicide. That's an overview statistic. So that's a call for concern.
Jenna?
Ok, ça, docteur, ça qu'on l'a dit, hein, c'est que suicide là, c'est un gros problème. Et c'est un problème qui est important, qui concerne toute planète là. Il est important. Suicide là, il y a 1 million de monde qui suicide tête yo et sous planète là. Chaque année. Les fini boy ici dans les États-Unis, ils disent nous comme ça que l'on regarde presque chaque 11 secondes il y a un monde qui tue tête li.
Okay, Dr. Clara, thank you, Jenna.
Yeah. So now, the topic for the day, teenage suicide. Now, an overview statistics for this population, teenagers and young adults, they account for the second leading cause of death for this population. So it is well known per research that teenagers die from suicide more than the way they die from cancer or heart attack. So that is very concerning. And with this being said, I want to give the reason why I focus on teenager or the young adults, why I'm doing the presentation. That is because they are very, very vulnerable population. Secondly, I work with 80% of my client as a provider that I see are teenagers, so I see their struggles. And secondly, for personal reasons, I had a very close family friend that lost their young teenager to suicide, never had any history of mental health illness. That was last year, the eve of Christmas. Get out of church, they were in church, went and jumped off a roof and died. So that caused a lot of pain to the family, and they were not sure what happened. So they had to try to dig everywhere to see if he wrote a note, if at all he was struggling with anything. But unfortunately, that was all cause and after effect. It has already happened. So that experience. And my own personal experience raising teenagers, I had my daughter in middle school that shows some signs, which we're going to talk about, so that how parents can recognize these signs and don't ignore them. She has some signs of withdrawal, isolating herself, but poor grades from school. I did not pick that up as a parent. I wasn't exposed to the information I have right now. But after a couple of years, when I start talking to her to understand my teenager better and see how I can help her, she told me she was suicidal at that time. The only reason why she did not proceed in doing what she wanted to do, because she told me she had the plan, was because she is a Christian. So she believed in God and she believed not to take her own life. So that is what saved my daughter. So I'm coming from a personal place and from a professional place why I have interest on teenage suicide. So.
Thank you, Dr. Njekam. I appreciate your transparency here and honesty in sharing this, because there's a great stigma, especially in our community, in terms of when our child or family member has gone through suicide, and we keep it hush hush. We don't talk about it. So the fact that you're not only this topic is dear to you, but you're also bringing a personal experience there, because it's very important that the signs are not always visible, right? It's not right. Outward. The teenager is not going to say, oh, I don't want to live anymore. But it's very important to pay attention, and for all of us to really listen to some of those signs, those symptoms that the child could experience. Maryse, font-y traduction en créole pour nous.
Oui, donc ça m'a accentué sur ça, docteur Clara dit, hein. C'est pour lui une série d'exemples qui arrivent, que c'est pas seulement lui écrit sous lui, mais lui ouais comment arriver, non seulement avec mon travail et dans la famille tout et personnellement. Et donc le gars était un ami qui était pour, par exemple, il était sorti dans une cérémonie religieuse pour Noël, et puis après ça, il a été en bas de un building, il tué tête lui. et même les que parents, yo, bien famille, là, qui doit chercher ouais, qui ça t'est arrivé, il est déjà arrivé. Et en même temps, tout, il montrer que, et personnellement, peut-être pas lui, que elle t'a parlé avec petite li, il t'a fini réaliser que petite là, et d'après Jean, ouais, comportement, là, que, et Jean, Jean isolé, Jean, ouais, que la page, il te prêtait attention. Laisse ça, petit en part, ça nous les suicidal, il pas de idée pour la faire, mais il confirmé, maman, que était oui, il était une époque, il était ça. Donc, tout ça encore, c'est causé et dans la salle d'hier, l'hypothèse venir et nous-mêmes, nous avons parlé avec nous à soyant, pour nous dire nous que pas gagnons dans nous qui exempt, qui nous cap dit que ça pas privé. Donc, c'est ça qui fait que nous demandons, nous, chaque là, pour nous écouter ça là, pas pour nous analyser parole, mais pour nous quitter le rentrer dans nous-mêmes. Parce que c'est dans la compréhension totale, ça nous les santé mentale là. Chaque fois, nous prenons un petit goût de l'eau, nous portons là, nous avons dit qu'on la rivière, poser, qui t'a passé. Donc, on a continué, Dr. Clara, you could continue.
Thank you, Maryse. Margaret, I think you said you had questions in the chat.
Pour nous pas hésiter, écrire questions, commentaires sur le chat là. La première, c'est d'emblée Carole Laplanche qui déjà dit merci à Clara pour ça partager. Il fait que le sujet apparaît plus réel, plus proche de nous. So, as you can see, we have one of our participants who thank you for sharing your own experience and reality. So it really makes it real to us.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Clara?
Thank you. So the next slide, we're going to be talking about risk factors. What are the long-standing conditions or stressful situations that can put someone at risk to commit suicide? So that's what is known as risk factor. And then we're going to look at the protective factor. What are some of the positive conditions that can actually prevent somebody or promote resilience for them not to commit suicide or reduce the potential of committing suicide? So the next slide, I had it lay out. So we're going to look some of those conditions. If you can just move to the next slide.
Yes. Jenan, real quick, risk factors, protective factors.
Ok, alors, ça, Dr. Clara dit nous que il va parler de qui risque, enfin, c'est risque avec protection. Risque là, c'est condition qui existait, qui a amplifié, qui a augmenté bagay là pour tentative, pour suicide la sortie de tentative pour le suicide. Pour y a protection, c'est force, c'est personnel, c'est différentes conditions sociales, résistance qui permettre que Zach là pas fait, qui a évité Zach là.
Yes. Thank you, Jenan. Dr. Clara?
Thank you. So generally, risk factors are very common for individuals that have mental health disorder already, someone that is struggling with depression, bipolar, or any form of mental health. They are a high risk. But that being said, doesn't mean someone without a mental health disorder is exempted from committing suicide, okay? But those people that have the disorder, put them at a higher risk. Substance abuse also, people that abuse drugs are also at a higher risk for poor judgment to commit suicide. So we have so many risk factors. Like I said, it could be mental health disorder, alcohol, someone that feel intense stress. They might be going through divorce. For teenagers, they might be experiencing bullying at school. Sometimes they're not doing well. Also, the home environment. If the home environment is very toxic and abusive or violent home environment, that can also trigger thoughts of them want to hurt themselves. So it's a whole lot of lists on this. I don't want to read them one by one, but I'm just giving a few of the things that can put someone at risk. It could just be someone going through some terminal illness. And this is in general, not just teenager, even adults. They feel like they don't want to live anymore. So all of those are risk factors that can make someone want to hurt themselves.
Yes. Maryse, can you just break down the risk factors a little bit? Individuellement, relation, environnement.
Sorry.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to stoked on you.
Hold on a second, Maryse. Hold on. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Ça qui a mis mon nom, pas seulement jeune, même adulte, et dans condition que l'arrivée et commettre et suicide là, c'est que les gens doivent gagner une maladie mentale et qui déprime surtout ceux qui sont déprimés et s'il te essayé déjà pour te suicider tête li, s'il li kon boit alcool, et puis si ka gen des situations la vie, tant que pour adulte, qu'à son divorce, qu'à son séparation, qu'à son bagay qui choque li, et si c'est jeune, qu'à bien son bagay qui passé dans la famille li, côté environnement pas répondre à ça que t'a pas ou bien bah yo pas trop bon dans la famille là, des bagay qui dérangent li, bien ça qui arrive que c'est dans l'école tout que le tant qu'on a dit le bully le non
Mute yourself. I'm mute anyway.
tout ça là-dedans là-dedans. Donc même là que nous pas dit tout détail yo, nous dit au niveau individuel, au niveau de relations, d'interaction que gars avec monde et en même temps nous parler de environnement parce que quand il y a une situation côté ni jeune ni adulte là qu'a trouvé que li rejeté li pas voir rien et ça arrivait en pile que moi et tout et les gens qui viennent apprendre que une maladie et yo senti yo la vie a déjà fini pour ça besoin vivre ça qu'on arrive même l'hôpital mon non que li et commettre suicide là.
Yeah. Dr. Clara, thank you, Maryse. Protective factors?
Yeah, so example for these protective factors that will help build resilience for someone not to be able to or reduce the risk for potential suicide is if they have coping skills. They're able to cope. It could be also they have problem-solving skills. It could be strong family support system. It could just be their religion. For my daughter, it was her religion that, saved her to know that she wouldn't do that because her religion despise of someone killing their own self. So all of those are good protective factors. Support system, mentorship, grow in a healthy environment, in a stable home. Those will help a lot reduce and prevent suicide.
Maryse, protective factors?
Oui, donc il y a un pile de bagages qui arrivent pour protéger les gens, pour que même si ça t'est passé dans la tête, qu'il ne pas arriver faire. Tant qu'on lui parle de petite lion qui à cause de religion, croyant si dans bon Dieu, fait dire qu'il connaît que le pas penser, il connaît que bon Dieu pas voulu pour faire ça. Et donc, et puis tout, les gens qui étaient déjà dans conditions qui dépriment lui, ça dépend comment on réagit, comment on gère ça. Ça nous les coping skills, ça veut dire comment gérer la vie. Donc, si on est déjà déprimé, il y a une difficulté pour gérer leur situation, ça peut arriver que l'ergoma qui arrive, il choqué, il arrive dans le suicide. Et puis, qui encadrement que nous avons gagné au niveau familial, au niveau amis, tout ça au compte là-dedans. Est-ce que les gagnent, même si parfois ce n'est pas famille, il y a des gens qui ont un mentor, qui ont parlé avec lui, ils ont des amis qui sont censés faire sentir que lui existait. Parce que c'est profond de causer à ça. Alors, je suis tout ça dans lui. Le monde a senti le vide, il fait l'arrivée jusqu'à ce que pour y aller dans le suicide.
Yes. Thank you, Maryse. C'est très important, ça, what was shared here. Risk factors, là, in essence, say what predisposes a person to potentially have suicidal ideation, a plan, intent, right? And ça veut dire que qui risque, qui a comme si l'environnement personnellement, dans relation, environnement, and protective factors are what are some of the tools that can actually, like Dr. Clara mentioned, that can build the resilience, qui a comme si supporter mon nan, qui a réduit risque de suicide là. Okay, on continue. Dr. Clara?
Yeah, so we're going to be moving to the warning signs. What are some of the warning signs that you can detect? Now, I would say for sure, sometimes this warning sign could not be very drastic for you to really see. So you have to really pay close attention, especially with this vulnerable population. For the case of my daughter, there were subtle signs that I overlooked. Okay, so it could just be them. Sometimes they could say themselves, threatening to hurt themselves or kill themselves, which sometimes might be misunderstood, like they're seeking for attention. That is no. If they say it, please pay attention and address the issue. Don't think that they're just seeking for attention. It could also be them looking for means like gun, pills, or rope. So you want to pay attention to that. If that occurs, please, you want to take those items and lock them. If there's gun in the house, put that far away where they cannot access it. If you have pills laying around, please lock them. Every sharp object, have them all locked up. It can also be them just talking about it or maybe writing notes. A lot of time I see them coming to the emergency room because they send a note to their friend and the friend alert the school, and that's how crisis or mobile crisis will inform, and they're all brought to the hospital. So we have to pay attention to with that.
Yes,
So
thank you, Dr. Clara.
Sign, like text message.
Oh,
Alors,
sorry.
Dr. Clara, so parler de signes qui ont un avertissement pour le monde qui autour, qui a vivre autour de monde qui a intention de commettre des actes là. Dans le cas population qui est plus vulnérable, là, qui c'est teenager, ils se dit que de pour être teenager, la menace c'est pour le faire tête du tort, prendre au sérieux. Pas penser que l'il n'en jouette ou bien que l'a chercher attention. Depuis il dit, il prend au sérieux. On l'autre cas encore son teenager qui a cherché moyen pour le commettre on zac. Ça veut dire chercher zam, l'a chercher code, l'a chercher tout ça capable, joindre pour le cas fait tête li mal. Ensuite, il parlait de teenagers qui, quand y a yo sur les réseaux sociaux, yo écrit des messages, yo dit yo pour tuer tête yo, ou bien yo écrit une lettre, yo écrit un mot, yo écrit un texte. Tout ça, c'est de signes qui c'est avertissement et c'est pour nous prendre ça très au sérieux.
Yes, thank you, Jenan. Okay, Dr. Clara.
Yeah, so the next slide, I just kind of did a mnemonic, which explains some of the warning signs that you observe. So I have it as ACE part 1. So it's basically them threatening suicide, which they can communicate or they could send that by text. It's also maybe excessive or increase in substance use when they're using drugs, alcohol. It could be for them saying that they have no reason to live, which is a sense of purposelessness. Sometimes they feel hopeless and worthless. It could just be agitation or maybe change in their sleep pattern. Sometimes they're not sleeping. So those are things we also have to observe. When there's change in sleep pattern, they're not sleeping or they're sleeping too much. Anxiety, sometimes they feel like there's no way out. They're trapped in their own self, feel like nothing is ever going to change. And then there you go, the withdrawal. They're withdrawing from friends, from family. This was social butterfly. Then out of nowhere, you see them withdrawing into their little corners. Pay attention to that. All of those are subtle signs. It could be anger, just rage. Every little thing got them on the edge. They're so irritable. Pay attention to that. Even poor grades, pay attention to that. They were doing very well in school. Now they are declining in their school performance. You have to carry a conversation to find out what's going on. And so on and so forth. So that is the mood changes we already talk about. So this is just a sign I just put on like mnemonics. If you see them, carry that conversation with your kids if they're going through any of this.
Absolutely. Warning signs, very, very important. Jenan, est-ce qu'on peut expliquer un petit peu comme si phrase ça que Dr. Clara fait expliquer là, qui genre comme si, qui signe que parents yo, pour yo prendre, pour yo comme si mettez dans tête yo, pour yo ça comme si recognize.
Ok, il y a des changements, les nous ouais que l'arrivée sous bâti moun nan, faut nous prêter sérieusement attention à lui. Si moun nan di menace suicide là, li communiquer de façon ou d'une autre, tant qu'on se dit après attention à lui. Si nous ouais que si moun nan servi avec substance alcool, drogue, prêter attention à lui. Si moun nan senti que li pas gen raison pour le vivre, tout ça c'est signe. Si moun nan gen anxiété, li senti li bloqué, li pas comment pour le sortir, li gen désespoir la vivre, c'est signe. Soit li font râler bac sous amis, sous société, ça sont l'autre signe. Soit pour n'importe qui raison, moun nan pété le fond colère, prêtez attention à lui. Soit li agit sans réfléchir, et puis li gen de comportement qui est drastique, qui est dramatique, que là-bas où tout ça, c'est des signes qui sont importants pour nous prêter attention à lui.
Ok, merci Jenan. Margaret, ou une question dans le chat là?
Oui, donc, et avant question, la première, c'est Carole pour intervention sur le chat là, quand elle dit que c'est très important pour nous toujours faire check sur tout le monde, nous, sur notre famille, nous, de façon régulière. Donc, toujours checker, regarder si on est en forme. C'est pas tant que nous à déterminer signaux, mais nous avons toujours relais mon nom, font-ils parler avec gars qui j'en sais. En question qui sur le chat là, on m'a dit, est-ce que j'en vis moderne nan hier, j'en moun yo à vivre konya, c'est pas une situation qui augmente risque, mais qui augmente risque pour suicide. So, Clara, is modern life increasing the risk of the risk factors of suicide, modern life?
It does, yes. It does increase the risk factor, yes, for suicide.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Margaret, for the question. Let's go ahead to the myths and the facts, Dr. Clara.
Yes, so these are misconception about suicide, which I want to bring awareness to everyone. You know, they say sometimes people that talk about suicide, or if you talk to them about suicide, you're planting an idea to their head. So in other words, don't ask them if they're suicidal. So I want to bring our attention that the answer is no. It's good to always check on them and ask them how they're feeling. You don't have to ask direct question like you have, are you feeling suicidal? But you can ask something like, do you feel like you want to hurt yourself?
That's
asking,
right.
Asking them this question, give them room for them to express their thought. So it's always good to ask. Don't feel like if you ask them, you're going to plan the idea for them to commit suicide. So I just want to say that is a myth. The real fact is that asking them, give them room to express their thoughts. So that's the first myth about suicide. I have about 6 listed here. Do I say all 6 before you translate?
Okay, go ahead, Jenan. Translate myth number 1.
Ok, alors, Dr. Clara di nou kon sa ke gen pil lejon, gen de bagay yon moun kwe sou sisid, epi gen verite ya. Lejon li fek pale de liyan, se ke moun yo pense ke lor ou pale avek yon moun de sisid, de tuye tet li, se kom si ke ou vin plante l'ide a nan tet li. Men verite ya, se pa sa. Parce ke lor pale a moun de sisid, se ta pou ke ou permettre li son ouverture ou bali pour l'exprimer, ça le senti, ça la vive. Mais ou pas mettre l'idée à notre tête. C'est parce qu'on déjà, ouais, que bagay la, on ti jan là, ou poser question, puis gon jan pour poser question. Ou pas aller, ou dire comme ça que, est-ce qu'on peut le tuer? Non. Ou dire comme ça que, est-ce qu'on senti qu'on t'a envie de faire tête ou mal? C'est comme ça que moun ap senti, puis en confiance pour l'ouvert que le ba ou.
C'est ça, très bien. Dr. Clara, myth number 2.
Yeah, number 2, it says that people that talk about suicide, they are just talkers. They're not going to do it. In reality, a lot of people, if not all, that have attempted suicide have communicated that one way or the other. So if they talk about it, please see how you can offer them help. If you have to take them to the hospital yourself, do that so we can prevent some suicide. Don't just ignore and say they're just saying it. They're not going to do it.
That's right. Absolutely. Maryse, myth number 2.
Ouais, Michael. Oui. Donc, deuxième, ça, Dr. Clara dit, et nous qu'on dit que si moun nan di livre tuer tête li, ça va dire que qu'a fait pour ça. Et moi, cap dit vérité, hein, nous-mêmes culturellement, façon que nous parler en pile fois pour nous dire, ah, m'de cette sortie tuer m'date tête nous, qu'on fait que nous-mêmes nous penser son parole banale liée. Tandis que moun nan ka son bagage que li vle communiquer. Donc, laisse ça, ou essayer d'adresser là avec lui, ou ba chance pour le cap dit plus. Parce que ça cap aider moun nan. Laisse ça lui dire, comme si tu as senti que li pas compté, et puis voilà qu'on ba les oreilles, ou parler avec lui. Li tende ou. Donc, c'est ça cap aider l'empile, et surtout si moun nan gen tout mental.
C'est ça, parce que j'en dis à Marie, c'est comme si faut nous prêter attention que nous pas juste comme si minimize, nous pas juste dire ah so gain là, à chercher à manger, à coucher, right? But we provide comme Jenan dit ouverture là, perfect, même ça. Dr. Clara, myth number 3.
Number 3, so it says if someone really wants to die by suicide, there is nothing that can be done about it. That is wrong. There's definitely something that can be done. If someone voiced concern of suicide, please provide them a safe environment for treatment, because a lot of time could be that they're going through some underlying issue that with a little help or support, they will come out strong. So definitely provide them a safe environment. Do not ignore.
Absolutely. Margaret, you have a question in the chat.
Oui, gon commentaire qui de Carole encore qui dit que dans vie moderne nan vraiment activités médias sociaux donc c'est un gros élément là-dedans. Et question en fait qui j'en parent qu'a discuter et social média yo et suicide avec jeunes yo qui j'en yo ka adresser problème. Donc how can parents discuss social media and suicide with young people?
Yes, good question, Dr. Clara.
Yeah, it's a very important question. It's very, very important for adults to have conversation with their teenager about suicide. The media use in general, because it's a lot of false information. Sometimes the cyberbullying also, So letting the teenager know reality versus fake and understanding that not everything on the social media is right will go a long way. So yes, I will encourage parents to carry conversation with their teenager, telling them the reality about social media.
Absolutely. Katya, I know you work with teens also. What would you say to parents in terms of probing that questions with social media and suicide?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So I think this is where it's important that we check in, right? So when we ask the question, how do you feel? Do you feel like hurting yourself? I mean, when you're speaking to your teens, when you want to kind of check in to see where they are and you want to ignite some a conversation, you can say, how's your mood? How has your mood been lately? And, for them, you can say from a scale of 1 to 10, how you're feeling. Right. So based on where they find themselves on the scale, this is what will help you to start conversation. But definitely, I always say not to be afraid to have these conversations, because a lot of time when we don't have them is where we miss the opportunity.
Yes.
And just this week, I'm working with a family where, exactly what Dr. Clara mentioned, 11 years old, thoughts of self-harm, has even gone to the extent of cutting. But the family always felt like they were to blame and they never took action, right? So, and always sweeping under the rug. And this is what happens when we try to take the blame ourselves as a parent and not really seek for professional support, right? It gets worse. Right. So it's important that we're not afraid to really ignite these conversations, and we're not afraid to really talk to them to the best of our ability. If not everyone can have these in-depth conversation, but really seeking further support, right? Professional support. That is detrimental. Because a lot when we don't do that, this is where they only use what they know from social media. They see what they hear from TikTok, and a lot of these things now they're trying to normalize, right? So we have to be there to say, hey, this is not normal. You shouldn't feel this way, and if you do, we need to take action.
Absolutely. I think that's very important. Thank you, Katya, because not having the conversations, Jean-Katya Dia, is going to push them to talk to their friends, to go to TikTok, to go to Instagram, pour joindre réponse yo, when the answers could just be simply having a conversation. It may be uncomfortable, right? However, it's you also have to check yourself. What are your thoughts about suicide? Parce que si ou inconfortable pour parler, pour faire discussion ça yo, ti moun nan pa jam senti yo confortable. The child's not going to feel comfortable if you're uncomfortable. So avoidance is not the solution. Having a conversation, like Katya mentioned. Thank you, Katya. Dr. Clara, let's go to myth number 4.
Yeah, and just to comment on what Katya said. So I had a child that came in that took pills, overdose, and the reason was because she had this unknown person on the internet telling her to kill herself. So that's what the internet does. So that's why parents, carry this conversation with your teen. Talk to them about all the bullying, the cyberbullying, and all of those stuff. They need to be aware. And I saw a very important question. What if the parents are not comfortable? Can I address that? I just saw somebody put a question. If they're not comfortable, or if the children are not comfortable to open up to their kid.
Yes.
That's something I can address before we move forward.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So so usually what I always say sometimes is, if you as parent, that's why we're learning, okay? If you can create a safe and non-judgmental environment for your children, they're going to come to you. And I'm talking from a place as a parent where, giving them the opportunity to talk without them feel being judged, just your presence to be able to listen will go a long way to build that trust with your teen or your children. Katya says, check on them regularly. Just ask them, how are you feeling? That make them feel like they've been seen, okay? Model to them vulnerability. Let them know that it's okay to discuss and express their feeling without them feeling weak talking about it. And I'll give a classical example. A few days ago, my child is graduate. She is last year of high school. She has some concern with her math class because if she doesn't pass, she's going to fail. So that made her feel somewhat sad. But I was so happy she came to me and said, Mommy, I don't feel too good because at this point I feel like nothing I'm doing is going right. So at that time, I had to give her my presence and listen and be non-judgmental and let her express how she's feeling. So if I didn't give her that space, who do you think she's going to talk to next? Or what is she going to do next? Those are all risk factors. School, she's not doing well. She's already feeling down. And she was kind of withdrawn somewhat, almost half the whole day. And then I had to ask her what's going on, and she opened up. So creating that safe environment helps a lot to reduce some of these issues. So that was just an example. So number one, you create the environment, and please validate their emotions and their feeling, what they're telling you at that time. Validate it. Even if you don't have solution to the problem, it's okay. Just be there.
Yes, absolutely. Marie, vous devez faire comme si un petit summary.
Yes, nous parler un peu de confort pour Timon, pour parents yo. Parents qui adresser salweyan avec Timon yo. Et en pile en bagay que nous disons, même gens Timon n'a pas senti à l'aise pour parler avec parents, ça arrive en pile que parents pour tête li pas vle vraiment parler de ça parce que comme nous parlons tant qu'on a nous dans mitio, pas parler ba ça mettre dans tête li parce que nous même comme parents, c'est difficile pour nous sentir nous confortables avec causer ça parce que nous perd la vérité que nous cas suspect là que nous observer tant que là nous saute parler avant que nous comportement nous changement yo nous ça peut-être privé avec gentil moun changer soit li toujours énervé kounya ou bien li isolé li ou ka suspect qu'on bagay nan ou même ou senti gon bagay qui pas bon mon peur ou peur vérité ou plutôt rete dans ça les denial. Donc il fait que les est difficile pour parents adresser li. Donc tout conseil que docteur Clara a que n'a parlé à soignant, c'est pour nous encourager parents tout d'abord. Et l'un dit parents, ça ne veut pas dire maman, papa seulement. Parce que parfois, quand on gagne une observation que une même famille fait, que l'y adressé avec maman ou papa, ça qu'on crée même compte dans la famille. Et n'a parlé pour jeunes, et m'a pas ajouté même gens que nous avons notre exemple, que gagne qui gagne 11 ans, que Katia se dit que lui dans semaine ça, moi qu'on trouve des adultes qui suicidal, qui te déjà fait plan écrit dans toute bagaille. Gagne un bagaille moun nan dit ou tendel ou adresser. Et me content de l'autre moun dit comment te fait connaître. Donc nous pas demander pour nous toutes pour nous cabriver comprendre tout petit détail yo, mais ça que nous va accentuer pour ça nous les caregivers, parents, mon oncle, ma tante, soeur, frère, pour chaque jour pour nous venir plus conscients comment en pile fois bah yo devant nous mais nous pas ouais yo. Donc prêtez attention.
Yes, and I just want to add, I'm sorry, Tammy. I just want to add to what Marie's mentioned, right? And I know us as parents, culturally, we're busy. Culturally, we're not used to checking in. Pas vrai parce que nous pas la ti moun nan jeune supposé pas la veille parce que nous occupés. So it's important that we check in because the big thing now is a lot of time when I'm speaking to our younger generation, they're saying that they're feeling emotionally neglected by their family, right? That's the big thing, right? They say, yeah, I wasn't abused physically, I wasn't abused verbally, but I was emotionally neglected, right? Which is to me just as bad because they feel that way. Ça veut dire que you weren't there for them emotionally, right? So a lot of time it plays on, the choices they make, the decision they make, who they become, because they don't feel supported. So it's very important culturally, because I know from my frame of reference, culturally, it's always a struggle for us to be there emotionally, because we feel if we're there financially, we're there physically, hey, we're doing our part. Not quite, my friends. So just make sure that as you're there physically, as you're there financially, emotionally, you're there as well, especially with the way that we're moving as a society.
Absolutely. Very, very important. Thank you for saying that, Katia. Absolutely. And if you're uncomfortable, then this is where, as mental health professional, we're there to have those conversations. At least ou kon professionnel côté moun nan ka fait conversation, right? But the emotional support really lends to the attachment style later on into adulthood, their sense of self-esteem. So, tout ba ça vraiment point émotionnel, emotional needs, emotional neglect, very, very important. So, let's go ahead and continue the conversation, Dr. Clara, myth number 5.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katia, for the input and everyone. So the next one, they say suicide people want to die. That people that want to commit suicide want to die. In real fact, they don't want to die. They just want to take away the pain. I've asked a couple of them that have attempted suicide. By the grace of God, they didn't die. If I ask them very deep, did you really want to kill yourself? The answer has always been no. But it was just the pain at that time. So they feel like if they do what they did, it's going to be a relief from that pain. So yeah, so the misconception, they don't want to die. They just want the pain to go away.
And that's very important, Dr. Clara. Jenan nou alvin sou pour translation now, but Dr. Clara, it's almost kind of like we have to assess the function of suicide, right? What is the purpose? What is the person think that they're going to solve by, you know, taking their life, right? Jenan, go ahead.
Ok, Clara sa di nou ke mauvais interprétation, légende que en général nous gagnons sous moun qui touye tête yo, c'est que yo toujours comprend, yo fait nous comprendre bien moun yo comprendre que les moun nan touye tête li, c'est li toujours de gain l'idée pour li mourir. Mais la vérité a tout à fait le contraire. Moun nan qui touye tête li a pas vle mourir.
Yeah.
Li gon souffrance qui dure pour li que pas ka supporter, li pas ka ouais comment pour joindre solution à souffrance là. Et c'est dans zak ça que li pensait que li ouais que la joindre solution. Mais au fond, li pas envie aller quitter terre mourir. Mais c'est souffrance qui trop pour li, émotion trop pour li pas ouais solution donc li fait zak là.
Exactement. Et Regina, nous parlons sous question là, oui. Jenan, j'en dis, c'est comme si y a pas ouais devant, y a pas ouais solution, y a pas contre qui ça pour y faire. So dans tête yo, suicide là c'est seule solution que y gagne. Mais vraiment vrai, y a pas vle comme si et tout y tête yo. Reginald.
Donc, moi-même, je pensé que c'est vrai ou t'es vrai tuer tête. Donc, qui ça souffrance là? Qui souffrance qui a permettre au monde, c'est la mort qui a délivré. Ça veut dire souffrance là.
Bonne question. Maryse?
Oui. Souffrance ça veut dire le moun nan gon bagay qui rivel. Li gen doit son choc ou bien c'est ta couleur nous parler que n'a pon jeune qui senti que li pas compté pour parent li ou bien li te gen premier boyfriend ou bien girlfriend li ou bien tel bagay puis boum bagay la cassé li cap son moun qui vini et puis li te marié 10 ans 15 ans 25 ans boum li recevoir le divorce là non moment ça que bagay la frappé moun nan li vin trouver li non désespoir incontrôlable et douleur li pas ka kembel. C'est ça qui fait que ouais que dans moment ça moun so vin joindre qui t'a pas tuer tête li an, il gen droit son couteau te gen temps prend, li fourrer dans col. Il gen droit c'est 50 pilules li boire. Obligé laver. Li gen droit li rentrer, li capable même qu'on boire. Li vini li boire tout en bouteille whisky et puis on prend le mener l'hôpital. Vous comprenez, moi ba non 2-3 si exemple, mais c'est exemple ça yo. Et là on parler avec yon moun qui relè dans hotline et ou tendez feeling ça nan voix moun nan ou voyez police la kay li. Ou gen doit par exemple moun nan li rete dans kay li fait tout effort l'acheter du feu prendre dans kay là. Dans moment ça perdu toute tête li. Donc suicide là c'est la solution. Donc imaginez-nous nous chaque là peut-être que ça pas jamais arrivé nous mais à niveau ça mais nous connaissons des bagailles qui traversent nous par un bagage qui rive dans la vie pendant que peut-être premier 3 minutes là, ou bien premier 5 minutes là, ou bien journée ou fini. Et c'est dans un moment nous carré de dépression ou bien choc ou bien quel que soit lié, moun ça pas gain c'est souffrance ça. Et moi sûr et certain que même si nous-mêmes qui là nous pas arrivé à temps ça les suicide attempt, l'idée a passé. Nous pas demander nous pour nous faire confession. Mais c'est entrer, nous voulons nous comprendre que en tant qu'humain, le que gagne des bagages qui arrivent où, et nous-mêmes qui dans la profession, gagne le monde parle avec vous, ou les peut mener à l'hôpital, il y a des gens qui ne comprennent pas, ils disent exagérer.
Yeah, absolument. All right, so Dr. Clara, we're going to go back. I think we are at number 5 for us, please.
Okay, so thank you. So number 5 says suicide happened without a warning and it's unpredictable. The real fact is that they are actually observable signs, which could just be a change of behavior or mood that was just underlooked or undermined. Like the case for the teenager that committed suicide last year. He never had any diagnosis for mental health, but later on, the family did say, after his demise, that they could see some changes, that he was withdrawing. So you could definitely see that there was lack of knowledge. Nobody carried a conversation to find out if he was struggling or anything. But unfortunately, it ended up that way. So yes, they are warning signs. So it don't just happen. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have to be able to recognize it. And, you know, you did beautifully by mentioning the risk factors and the signs. So Margaret, before we go to you, Jenan, Margaret, do you have a question in the chat?
Okay. Toute réaction est passée.
Ok, très bien. Jenan, ou continuer? Numéro 5.
Alors, Dr. Clara arrivé sous les gens numéro 5 là, qui veut dire que gon croyance que yo dit suicide rive sans klaxon, sans avertissement, sans attendre. En général, souvent, gen des signes avertissement. Nous gen doit pas ouais yo, nous pas comprendre yo, mais gen des signes que moun nan voye bay, moun qui autour de lui, qui explique que li gen l'intention et que ça travaille dans tête, ça travaille dans l'homme pour poser ça là. Li ka gen comportement changer, li ka et Clara s'est expliqué là, li font retrait sous amis sous société, même si li pas gen trouble mental, mais comportement bay des indices, d'indications que moun sa vive en souffrance terrible. Donc, c'est des signes qui sont importants. C'est ça qui fait que nous a dit que li pas arrivé sans attendre. Gen signe nous ka pas ouais yo, nous ka pas comprendre yo, mais toujours gen de petits signes, d'indices qui bay.
Absolutely. Merci, Jenan. Dr. Clara, number
Yes.
6.
And number 6 is just saying that people feel like this is not really common, that suicide is not common. There are some people that feel like this doesn't exist. But if we look from the beginning, I pull out the statistics, we could see that it's a major health concern that affects thousands of people. 1 in every 11 minutes is dying from suicide. So it is a problem. That's just the fact.
So, Dr. Clara, la dit comme ça que ça, c'est vraiment un problème. Il y a des gens qui pensent que c'est pas vraiment un problème, ce suicide-là, mais c'est que c'est pas vraiment commun, mais c'est vraiment un très gros problème de santé publique mentale. Okay? So, let's go to let's see, is there another? Margaret, go ahead.
That'll be all. The next slide would be probably prevention.
Okay.
Hold on, Dr. Clara. Margaret?
Je voulais faire un commentaire sur ça, côté vraiment, surtout dans le milieu haïtien. J'ai toujours pensé, on dit que haïtien pas fait ça facile. Mais un pile professionnel de santé rapporté que ces derniers temps, il y a un pile cas de suicide dans la communauté haïtienne, que en Haïti, que à l'étranger, qu'à jeunes, et même qu'à adultes. Mais il y a que les augmenté qu'à jeunes. Donc, il est vraiment important pour nous prêter attention. Et Jean-Marie, ça parlé de milieu, côté que si n'a gardé si n'a aller en Haïti tout, côté que bon et gen ti bouli mais situation et sécurité a affecté moun mentalement en pile. Donc c'est vraiment important pour nous prêter attention et à ti moun et à grand moun.
C'est ça. Merci, Margaret. Dr. Clara, suicide prevention.
Yeah, so this is a very good one to take note. And I want to talk a little bit about friends and family, what you can do before you reach out to professional help. In case you have a teenager or a family member or a loved one that you kind of see some sign, okay? Please, what you can do is approach them and talk to them. Listen to them without judgment. I think we've already mentioned some of these points already. Just be there for them. Goes a long way to listen. Ask them direct question. It could just be, how are you thinking about hurting yourself? By asking that question, you give them room to express whatever emotion or feeling they're going through. And you'll be surprised. Some might say yes. That will guide you further to find out if they have a plan. If they do say they have a plan, that becomes an emergency at this point. So that I would advise you just call 911 or call Crisis Mobile to take them to the hospital where safety can be guaranteed. They need to be watched 24/7. Offer them your presence, which we already talked about, just sitting there with them and listen. Like I said, even if you don't have the right answer to give them, just listening goes a long way. They'll feel the support, at least you're there. Remove every immediate thing that can cause potential danger, like if there are pills or sharp object or knife or gun, lock all of those items, put them away so that they can have access to hurt themselves. And now encourage them as well to reach out. You want to encourage that individual. If you're going through something, there is always help. Talk to me or talk to friends. We can get help, collectively. So you want to encourage them to reach out. And the check-in, as Katia said, regular check-in, how you doing, go a long way. And just know when to get help. Know when to get help. For example, if they're telling you that they feel like they're going to hurt themselves and they're giving you a plan, please, that is not the time for you to pamper the situation by yourself. Just call the crisis hotline on 911. Let them go to the hospital, because that is an emergency at this point. So those are some of the things you can do at home.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Clara. So, Dr. Clara, essentiellement ça la dire comme si j'en ai prevent suicide là, c'est comme si numéro 1 pour coûter ti moun nan sans jugement, pas passer jugement, pas critiquer ti moun nan. Mande question directe. Est-ce que vous avez intention comme si et faites tout mal, right? Et j'en dis comme si mettez disponible. Dr. Clara fait un exemple avec petite Lee. Jean petite là te dit bon et mamie pas vraiment comme si l'école m'a senti bien avec l'école là, il fait disponible pour écouter ti moun nan. OK? Et retirer comme si danger dans cas là ou bien dans environnement, si gen couteau, si gen comme si zam, retirer ça yo et si gen médicament même tout. Retirer by ça yo. Encourager comme si pour reach out. Gen comme si teen counseling qui est available. Gen lot counseling, gen family counseling. So dit ti moun nan pour reach out. Pas faire sentir comme si les gars il fou by ça yo. Et puis font ti check-in. Check-in nan c'est comme si moi de ti moun nan qui j'en senti ou, qui j'en l'école là qui j'en zami ou, est-ce qu'on pas la zami ou. So by ça c'est très important, c'est comme si c'est Jean Katia t'a dit earlier, c'est comme si that emotional support pour comme si pour bay ti moun nan. Et puis pour connaître tout qu'il est pour les help comme si c'est mobile crisis ou bien 911 ou bien et comme si gen kunya officers qui trained comme si pour venir pour you assess type of suicide. So, Maryse, ou en question?
Un commentaire d'affaires qui est très important. Et là, remarquez ça, pas quitter Timounan pour compte. Pas quitter pour compte. Don't leave that child alone. Parce que ou doit suivre couteau, ou a suivre pilule, ou a suivre on l'autre bagaille, et que lui-même, il te get en l'autre bagaille, il t'a pas l'utiliser. Pas quitter pour compte.
Yeah.
Et puis, m'a accentué encore en tant que maman, en tant que parent, et culturellement, non pas habitués à ça, ou bien non tellement peur, et tout stigma, et parfois, peut-être pas ou, pas capable gérer. Et aide. Pas honte, demander aide. parce que leur petit moun nan mourir déjà trop tard.
That's it.
Et on va pas dire ça, puis pas dire c'est petit pas bon, ou bien seulement t'es déjà dit tel bas. Nous connaissons, nous avons une bonne cause, nous avons un bon drama qui parfois marre nous, qui fait que nous gagnons aide là tout autour de nous, les a bail l'autre menti.
C'est ça.
Les a bail l'autre menti.
Il a fait cachotterie.
Exactement.
Et c'est ça qui fait que nous-mêmes, dans le groupe là, dans Metamòfoz, nous disons comme ça que santé mentale, c'est chemin libération, c'est chemin liberté, c'est chemin lumière. Parce que là, nous disons santé mentale là, et nous portons mot suicide là aujourd'hui, il y a 1000 mots, 5000 mots que nous capotons. Et chaque mot ça yo lourd, yo important, pour nous faire au moins lourd pour nous. Pour nous rentrer dans la compréhension, chemin libération, que n'a parlé de petit monde, je dis, nous dit suicide, il y a un grand monde tout, qui y a un monde dans 40, monde dans 50, monde dans 80, dans tout l'âge, qui passe dans le même bagaille, côté que dans l'environnement et que y a avec nous, nous-mêmes, tout dépend de qui côté nous y est, pour nous qui aide que nous capoter. Et pas ignorer. Et songer et mon métamorphose, c'est chemin liberté. Et liberté en commence dans l'esprit nous, dans la tête nous, j'en nous bagaille. Et c'est changement mentalité ça. Et nous pas là pour blâmer personne. Nous chaque là à soi comme moun, nous gagnons les sentiments qui traversent nous au niveau personnel et au niveau familial. Donc Jean-Docteur Clara porter un peu exemple parler personnel, communautaire et amis. Nous tous nous cabouillons. Donc nous encore pas de jugement.
That's it.
I want to add to what Maryse said. Maryse will be parler, but I also want to bring to the attention of family and friends that when we are seeking support professionally, we have to be open-minded. Like sometimes the support that that is needed come in a form of therapy and medication management, right? And very often when we talk about medication management, there's always a stigma, right? That they don't want to start medication. But therapy is a long-term process, right? Because therapy teaches you skill sets. Therapy teach you modalities. But there are times where the situation is so acute, so immediate, we need to stabilize it, not just with therapy, but we need some medication management that's going to have faster effect than the therapy.
Absolutely.
So very often when we talk about the thought of suicide in our adolescents and our young, or everyone, right? We have to come with the mindset that the approach can be both therapy and medication, or that's the approach. And in the long run, the plan can change, right? Because I say this because just to go back to that same 11-year-old, I saw her 2 weeks ago. And when I saw her then, her family, they were just like, no, they only wanted therapy, no medication management. Okay. And this week I get a phone call from the ER because she had another suicidal attempt. And this time it was more serious.
That's right.
So this is acute. So we can't wait to say therapy alone. So I'm just saying that we have to be open. We have to have a good platform, right? When we're looking for support.
Absolutely. And there's so many different options out there.
Yeah.
So we can't just consider one, as Katya said, but many different options. So let's move forward because the time is jumping. Dr. Clara, you want to finish the prevention? But as you know, we're going to come to you after this slide.
Yeah, so we almost to the end. So this slide, I think the next 2 or 3 slides was focusing mostly on practitioners, because per research, it was saying that sometimes these patients that commit suicide have actually seen their doctors prior to them even committing the suicide. So this conversation also, we encourage practitioners, which have done presentation about us, the clinicians, it is always advisable to screen at all time when you see this patient in a visit. Even if they're doing well, you have to ask them that question. Don't just look at them and feel that they're doing well and ignore it. So this also comes back to us, the practitioners, to always ask them questions. So this is what the last slide is all about. If you go to the next slide, if you look at the next slide, I put the common questionnaire, the last one, they ask, this is all screening. So it's for us to do also so that we don't miss it. The next question, the ask screen questionnaire is on the next slide. The PHQ-9, yes, for depression, so that we can know how severe the depression is. The GAD-7 for anxiety, I don't have all of that on this slide. See how severe the anxiety is. But specifically for suicide, we're talking about the brief safety questionnaire. It takes just 20 seconds to ask that question. And then you can identify a patient that is at risk. That way you can do the needful, which means send them to the hospital, because that's where safety will be at the most optimized than sending them home where they don't have adequate protection. So that's what the last two slides all about. Is for our clinician, encourage them to do this assessment as well. Every time they see this patient, I've had an adult, and I'll be honest, they're from my country, and because of the mental health, we always feel like, mental health in Africa, we're still trying to grasp that concept. So they always come smiling, like everything is fine. So there was a couple of times I did not ask if he was suicidal, but the third time he came, I asked. Why did I ask? There was some changes that I noticed. He came in with dark glasses. That is not his baseline. He has loose weight. He was avoiding eye contact. And I'm like, okay, something is wrong. So then I asked, are you feeling suicidal, or do you have any thought of want to hurt yourself? And he said, yes. I was so glad I didn't let him walk out without asking that question.
That's right.
So I was able to provide him safety plan and let him understand there's help, but his case wasn't severe, so he didn't have a plan. So I was able to contract safety with him, to give him on the crisis hotline number, make him know that he can call at any time to go to the emergency room before I feel comfortable to let him go home. So asking that question for our practitioner is a must for every visit. So
absolutely. I love the fact that you're bringing that, Dr. Clara. This is to show you the interdisciplinary work that we're all doing here, whether you're social worker, psychiatrist, nurse practitioner, et cetera, et cetera. We as clinicians, these are the assessments. So Dr. Clara is going over some of the assessments that we as clinicians, we screen the patient. So whether you go to a psychiatrist and you get an ASQ or PHQ-9 or GAD, you're going to get the same assessment if you send your child to a therapist. But like she said, we have to visually see the affect. We have to visually see and be able to use discernment to figure out, okay, something is off here. Maybe this person who used to come dressed clean, all of a sudden their hair is looking a little mess. They're dressing a little dirty. They're talking maybe, looking down. So all of these are behavioral signs that we pay attention to. And as she mentioned, we will directly ask, do you have thoughts of harming yourself? Because 9 times out of 10, the client is not going to say, oh yeah, by the way, and clear cut say it to you. No, we have to ask directly so that we can know which strategy, which plan, as she mentioned, the safety plan to execute to make sure our goal is to get the client as safe as possible. So thank you, Dr. Clara, for sharing that. Regina, you did have a question.
Yeah, I'm realizing that I raised 5 kids. Mm-hmm. And in 20 years, we never had a conversation on suicide, mm-hmm. even though that we have people around us that have suffered from that. Mm-hmm. So it's both, I was ignorant to the prevalence of how prevalent it is in my kids' life, in my life. And I wasn't equipped, so I didn't know necessarily how to talk about it or comfortable talking about it. So it's a mm-hmm. huge problem, because you understand, with 5 kids, I should at least had one conversation on this. And yes. I think I was a good parent, and not once we've had a conversation to talk about, we spoke, I would always ask my kids how you're doing and all that, but never with that in mind. And I think now with this, I understand that it's something that we have to have, right now we're 29 people. It has to be on a weekly basis that we talk to people about that, because that's how prevalent it is. Am
Absolutely.
I right?
Yeah, Reginald, I love the fact that you are transparent and even saying that, because in our culture itself, we don't say that. We're not going to admit that. Oh, we didn't have those conversations. Nous pas de parler avec Simounou, nous pas de parler avec famille de questions ça. Even though we may have had some doubts, but never had the courage or even the understanding to even ask. So I want to ask you, Regina, what do you feel is the reason why you didn't ask these questions?
Well, as a parent, being emotionally available, I was busy, so I wasn't emotionally available. I didn't take the time to create a safe space. We were just running and making things happen. So by the grace of God, suicide didn't affect me, but I know that my kids were bullied and I didn't know about it. You see, so parents, and it's not because I didn't want to engage my kids, they didn't feel comfortable talking to me. So this is a serious issue. Even when parents want to engage their kids in a conversation, if we don't create an environment where kids can talk and parents can listen without judging, there's not going to be any talk about it, So I was lucky. We were spared personally having to deal with suicide. But you know what? I'm going to have a conversation with my kids to ask them, did you ever think about it? And I'm sure I might be surprised to know that my kids actually taught about suicide. They had ideation and never acted on it. So I'm so happy that we're having this conversation because I'm learning so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Regina. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just want to also add, Reggie, now is the more than ever is the society that we're living in, right? And a lot of this conversation is more required now. Not that it wasn't required back then, but it's more prevalent now, simply because of all the other platforms that is so easily accessible to our youth, and the information that they're getting that are not always factual. Right. So they're getting, and how these diagnoses are being normalized. Right. They're being normalized. On sometimes I even scroll to TikTok and I'm seeing how somebody say, oh, I was like this earlier, I'm feeling like this today, I must be bipolar.
Right.
They just throwing out these diagnoses. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
Oh my God, if a child who's looking to find themselves are really listening to this, they may say, yeah, yesterday I had an attitude, today I'm happy, I'm bipolar. So this is now more than ever. That's the bottom line. It's important that we have this conversation. Not that they weren't warranted then, but they may not have been as critical.
Yes.
Right? And maybe there was no missed opportunity then, but now there are so many opportunities that we will be remissive as parents to not check in.
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, l'important pour nous checker avec ti moun yo, parce que gens que la vie a vini kounya, bagay yo différent. Pas vrai, là que ou tap élevé ti moun yo, peut-être que li pas ton grande chose pour ti moun yo te connaît de qui j'ai ressenti, est-ce que gen pensé de tuer tête que mais kounya, dans toute social media que y a regardé, que c'est TikTok, que c'est Instagram, tout le monde a normalisé, yo fait symptômes ça normal. So si nous-mêmes comme parents, nous pas prendre temps nous pour nous éduquer ti moun pour dire hey, ça va normal. Hey, non, to check in, n'a perdu opportunité pour aider yo.
Absolutely. Well said, Katia. Thank you. Marie, vous avez une question après Margaret.
Oui. Moi, je voulais dire que en tant que parents et communauté, en pile fois, nous underestimate réalité que Timouna a vivre là, et même les vini que pour parler avec nous on petit gens vaguely. Et moi songer comme maman, ça gagne même bon 25 ans. Il y a un petit monde qui connaît que me toujours travail comme social worker avec jeunes. Te vinn di moi, mami, pour qui ça moi-même ou pas travailler avec moi-même avec jeunes yo qui travail là. Le Mande li, pour qui ça dit ça? Il dit parce que li besoin parler. Moi dit comme ça, c'est maman moi m'pa connaît si m'ka parler avec ou parce que il t'a mieux que mener ou aller yon l'autre monde. Moi, fais effort vraiment, moi, aller pour la en thérapiste en 2-3 fois. Depuis la première fois, je me dis, ah, je vais thérapie, ça va le faire pour petite là. Sur troisième thérapiste, il dit, moi, me dit comme ça, ok, est-ce que d'accord comme maman pour moi-même pousser moi de parler avec vous? Ça arrive, moi, faire. Et l'homme, par exemple, ça t'a corrigé dans Abdul gen 5 petits, il pas de chance. Moi-même, moi, t'es venu arriver dans une situation, côté que ti moun yo te connaît, là, au besoin de parler, puis yo dit, besoin de parler avec maman, je dis, ou bien dit, besoin de parler avec social worker, je dis. Et parfois, je me dis, social worker pas parler, non, c'est maman qui l'a connu. Ou à tourner pita pour parler social worker. Parce que pour moi, dit que même là que, ou bien doit gagner et skills yo, ou capable de faire là, ça porte en pile émotion. Donc, ça porte en pile. Donc, même le n'a dit nous, entre nous, pas de jugement, pas fatiguer tête, non, pas de stigma. C'est pour demander tête ou qui côtoyer. Parce que les pour mettre chapeau maman, les différents de chapeau social worker. Et on te fait, on est obligé de faire. Et jusqu'à présent, m'a fait.
That's right. The work don't stop. The work don't stop. Thank you, Maris, for sharing that. Margaret?
Oui, et bon, même comme expérience, moi, je gagnais et en condition petite, moi, premier petite, moi, dans middle school, qui était fait suicide, qui était suicidé, tête les, et pas trop loin de la caille.
Un petit peu plus fort.
Alors,
Just a little bit, yes.
Oui, moi, dis non, en tant que parent, mais même te gagné 11 amis, petite, moi, qui était suicidé, tête li, pendant que il était dans secondaire et premier cycle secondaire. Donc, et qui était vraiment, et un grand effet ni sur moi, ni sur personne qui te connaît li, parce que qui était apparemment bien. Et ça t'est vraiment, et fait me comprendre l'importance et dialogue, et moi, t'es arrivé quand même. Essayer autant que faire, créer un climat de confiance, côté que me dialoguer à Timoun, moi. Cependant, nous faisons tout que chaque Timoun différent. Chaque team est différent. Il y a un qui plus facile par la avec, il y a un qui a besoin de l'autre support. Donc, et songez tout que culturellement, il n'y a pas de lever comme ça. Parents, ils gagnent en pile attente de vous. Il faut avoir bon résultat scolaire, il faut arriver à l'école, il faut avoir un bon métier. Mais, j'en ai toujours dit, voler, ouverture d'esprit pour qu'à dire parents soient sentis. Nous pas lever la donne. Donc, il faut nous apprendre nous-mêmes culturellement pour nous changer façon de faire, nous faut nous ouvrir tout pour nous besoin pour nous aller à l'école, to go to school to learn how to do it right. And when we can't, faut nous demander au secours, nous pas obligés qu'à faire toute bagarre. Et c'est dans ordre d'idée ça que Florence Desrosiers, que nous avons salué, qui pédiatre tout, lui dit, pour faire suite avec ça, Régina, elle te dit comme commentaire là, faut parents yo, qu'à autoriser et médecins jeunes yo. Pour parler avec eux parfois en privé, parce que souvent, et même l'aime ta pratique clinique, on a ça, il y a un bagage, un petit monde qui est plus facile pour le dire docteur, il n'est pas qu'à dire parent. Est-ce qu'il faut nous avoir ouverture d'esprit pour nous permettre que les gens qui bâti en soin, que vous faites suffisamment de confiance pour les aider d'autres dans voler ça.
So that's a good question, Margaret, for Dr. Clara, in terms of Dr. Clara, someone is mentioning, like, you know, in terms of being able to provide the clinician or the pediatrician, the doctor who's caring for the child, the consent or the ability to provide that support so that they can assist the child, because a lot of times the teen will feel more comfortable speaking with a doctor than their own parent or caregiver. So can you shed some light on that, Dr. Clara?
Okay, so I'm trying to understand the question. The parent is asking for resources to help the child, or they're trying to bring the child to see a practitioner? What direction are we going with the question?
Margaret, can you highlight?
It's like culturally, we have a lot of barriers.
Okay.
Communication barriers between parents and children. Often the child or the adolescent is more comfortable talking to their pediatrician,
yes,
or their PCP, and the comment came from a physician saying that sometimes the parent have to allow the child or the youth to have those conversations in private with their physician. Sometimes the physician helps to guide the child through mental health support.
Yes.
What is
So,
your take on that?
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to advise every parent to create that safe environment where that child will be comfortable to talk to them. Now, if the child is not comfortable, and for the most part, we see that a lot, kids are not comfortable to voice this concern to their caregiver or their parents, but they can come to a therapist and feel comfortable. Reason why? Because they feel like they're not judged.
That's
They
right.
feel, yeah, it's a safe place for them. They have the opportunity for someone to actually hear them and understand them. But most of the time, parents, unfortunately, still lack the skills on how to, it could be their own personal issue going on, them also struggling with themselves, or maybe the way they were raised up. Because I grew from Africa, where I came from, we were taught about resilience. Okay, there's no such thing like depression, sadness, and all of that. They shoved all of that down the drain.
That's
So
right.
you're right. So there's no room for that kind of discussion. So that's the way I was brought up. But when I came to a different society, I understood that I could not parent my kid in that same manner. So I have to create that culture of openness where they feel comfortable to share anything at any time. So at this time, I'm just going to encourage every parent. It's difficult, but it's doable. That's why we're trying to unlearn. Okay, we're trying to learn new skills and unlearn bad I don't want to say bad behavior, because most of the time we don't just know. That's how we were raised. So let's try to unlearn and learn new skills. So be there for your kid and create that safe environment. If not, then it's okay to have somebody where they can talk to, because that also will help you to save your child. At least they have someone that they can express those emotions versus don't even have nobody at all. So if you can create that safe environment or you're not comfortable, please feel free to let them share that with their practitioner or their counselor or their social worker or therapist, so that they can help them with coping skills to build resilience. So
I love that, Dr. Clara. You know, part of life on this journey is about learning and unlearning. And especially in our culture, it's like we're so stuck to the old ways of doing things that we just don't see, okay, well, this is how my parents did this, that's how my grandparents, so we're going to continue that. And as Reginald said, today's conversation has inspired him to unlearn what he may have been taught to now start having this conversation today with his children. So this is the power of community. This is the power of having those difficult conversations, but it's necessary. We can't just speak about, nice things, fun things, happy things all the time. This is about how we actually can discuss and really find ways to help not only the youths, but the adults as well, the people that we love in our lives. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Clara. Margaret, let's go to the chat. We have about 10 minutes or so. I know, Dr. Clara, you wanted to share the resources real quick. Let me go back to the slide.
Yeah, it's already there. And just to add on what Regine said, that he has never asked the children, and if you ask them, you'll be surprised. Until you ask, that's when you will know. Because if I didn't have the opportunity to ask my daughter, she wouldn't have told me that back in middle school, she did experience this. It was truly conversation, right? So please, it won't be a bad idea to ask them if at any time, if you ever thought of want to hurt yourself, you can start like that. I mean, after a good conversation, you can just find out. You'll be surprised.
Yes, absolutely. Can you share some of the resources, Dr. Clara?
Yeah, so we have, I'm in Maryland. So you can call 911 or 988. 988 is a mobile crisis hotline. Or sometimes just go to the nearest emergency room. And then you can text the crisis text line number, which is TALK. And then, of course, we have the National Prevention Hotline, which is a 1-800 number.
Absolutely. The same thing in the States is a national number. You can text or call 988. I'm going to put also, because I know I have people in Canada. So if you have, if you want kind of like resources in terms of Canadian resources, it's also the 988 that's also available. But you also have for young adults or youth teenagers, you have Connect. They can text Connect. We all know teenagers are stuck to their phone. They like the messaging. And this is why there's also psychotherapy that's also available through messaging. I don't personally recommend it. I don't really like it because then I don't I am unable to see the visual, which is very important. So you could text 686868. If the child is in Canada, the Kids Help Phone. There's the Crisis Service Canada as well. Suicide prevention, the 800 number is here. Okay, so if you have any questions, si nous connaît the resources for Haiti, if you can share it on the chat as well. I know, Dr. Clara, do you have any resources in terms of Cameroon? If there's a direct line, do you know anything?
Unfortunately, I do not.
Okay.
That's a great question. Yeah, I don't have.
Okay, no problem.
But
Margaret, let's go to
Tammy, if we could give Dr. Clara the opportunity to just talk briefly about her book.
Yes, and then we'll go to the Q&A. Absolutely.
Yeah, just the name and where they can, the name of the book, Dr. Clara, what inspired you to write the book, and what the book is about, and where our participant can find it if they're interested.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so thank you, Katia. So I wrote a book on teenage suicide. Basically, it's understanding and addressing teenage suicide, a comprehensive analysis. A lot of things that I've discussed here is more details in my book, like the myths and facts. I think I have about 10 points listed, but I talk about 6 on this book. I have the protective factor well explained, not just point light, protective factors, the different mental health diagnoses that are prone to individuals to commit suicide, substance abuse, depression, bipolar, it's all the borderline personality. So it's more details. You can find my book on Amazon in different copies, audio, Kindle, paperback, it's on Amazon. So again, my inspiration, I said, from a personal journey, and also thank you for sharing that, and also just working with the community with a lot of teenagers. So that's where I was inspired. Now, when I wrote the book, basically, I was looking into trying to pay attention to my fellow colleague, like the clinician. That was what I had in mind originally. But then I said, parents, anyone can read and also just gain knowledge. So you can get knowledge. You don't have to be a clinician before you know this thing. It's a plus if you're able to identify some of these signs, with the people around you, to actually even help them reach out for help. Because some people sometimes might be struggling and they don't have the zeal to even look out for help themselves. So if you are that loved one or family member that recognizes some of these signs because you read the book, you can look for help. You can help them look for help. So it's a very great resource.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Clara, for sharing that resource. Absolutely. And again, like Dr. Clara mentioned, you can read the book. You can get a hard copy. It's on Amazon, on all platforms. You could just Google the name of the book online. You will find it. If you don't like to read, guess what? You can listen to it on the audio. Okay, right. While you're driving, while you're cleaning, I love audiobooks. So, I love it. It's available. Thank you for even taking the time to put the research, the statistics as well, and putting that in the book. So we're going to go to the Q&A, Dr. Clara. Margaret, take it over.
Merci. Nous gagnons Jean-Marie Duvillers qui a un commentaire. Mande l'ouvrir micro pour les cafés commentaires là, s'il vous plaît.
Jean-Marie?
Jean-Marie Duvillers.
Allô?
Oui.
Bonsoir.
Oui, bonsoir.
Nous pas qu'à voir, non, sous KBC comme si caméra, nous qu'à voir. Voilà.
Ok, c'est un vieux tigre moun qui chute.
Oh, pas vieux tigre moun, non.
Non, tigre reculé d'Haïti.
Abricot.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on, I gotta mute.
Okay, there is something I would like to mention.
Yes.
C'est surtout pour répondre ou bien pour renforcer la réponse qui était à l'original à propos de la question qu'elle déposait, disant qui ça qui a fait un petit monde mal jusqu'à ce que l'envie mourir. Bon, la question a été répondue, mais gagnons bagaille parce qui est important, très important pour mentionner. Il y a des cas où un diagnostic a été posé, un diagnostic médical, de quelque nature que ce soit, médical, bien chirurgical, bien. Maintenant, qui, côté docteur a dit, Timona, ou bien dit parent devant Timona que le pronostic est mauvais, Timona a tant de temps pour le vivre. Ça peut être extrêmement douloureux. Timona n'a pas qu'à supporter ça. Mais là, il y a encore quelque chose qui est encore moins évident. It's like someone, I know a teenager, well, she's not a teenager anymore. She's 19 years old now, but who has been diagnosed of retinitis pigmentosa. And she was told by the doctor that according to the natural history of the pathology, by the age of 40, you're going to be blind.
Oh, wow.
Donc, où est qu'on y a un petit monde de 18-19 ans qui déjà connaît que dans quelques années, il pourra aveugle. C'est certainement un cas côté de monde qui n'a pas envie de vivre. Donc, il est très important que parents, une fois que moi, genre de situation ça a posé, que parents anticipent pour qu'on ait que faut que baille ti monde un appui psychologique parce que il y a un risque énorme de suicide. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jean-Marie Duvillers. Margaret, do you have any other questions? Panel, est-ce que nous avons un commentaire sur ça?
Oui.
Moi-même, moi, j'ai une question. M'ta aimé Clara parler de ça. C'est famille, les actes la fin posé, les moun décidé passer à l'acte, actes la fin fait, comment famille capable de gérer ça? Qui conseil entourage ou kabay pour entourage là, encadrer moun sa yo, k'ap viv gros choc ça, gros situation ça. Les finim ta remè li di nou kon ça, est-ce que en général, les yon famille vivent yon lan mort pour la cause suicide, est-ce que famille ça stigmatisé par communauté?
Oh, okay. So Dr. Clara, the second part, and Jinan, you remind me the first one, but Dr. Clara, Jinan is asking, you know, after a person or maybe a teen has committed the act of suicide, is there a stigma attached post the situation in terms of community or familial?
So this will depend on culture. Culturally, from where I come from, it is some kind of stigma. If not, they even feel like the family is cursed. Okay, so that's culturally. But in the United States, the culture is different. Its mental health is well advanced somewhat in the third world versus where I come from. So it all depends how individuals look at it. But some people still have stigma surrounding it at this point. So I think it's based on religion too. And
yes,
yeah, there's still stigma. So it's an ongoing work that we're doing to kind of eliminate and minimize the stigma, so people can understand that these are individuals that just needed help and was struggling and they suffer from it, and they die from it. So we're trying. It's still a work in progress. We're still getting there. But yes, it's still look at a stigma, some kind of sign of weakness or some taboo. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Clara. Jinan, première partie,
première partie, c'est comment, pour communauté, en société, aux amis, en famille, encadrer moun sa, famille sa, qui live dans situation pour vivre, l'amour, yon nan pali à cause de suicide.
Oh, okay. So Dr. Clara, she's asking, how does the community or the family kind of like, how do you support that person that has just experienced, death through suicide? How do you provide those resources, that community of familial support post-suicide?
Yeah, so there are many things you can do. Some of the things you could do is just validate their emotions at that time. The family that is grieving, that has lost someone through suicide. Be patient and be present for them. Just being there. Sometimes encourage them. If not, encourage them to seek some kind of support. Therapy will help. Yeah.
A lot of times, family therapy is a good avenue to explore too, right, Dr. Clara? Family therapy.
Right. Yeah, it is. So acknowledging their pain too at that time also is also very important. Listen to them and don't judge. So just being there, just be present and offer your help will go a long way to support them. community of support while they seek for professional help as well, so they can go through grieving, because they're gonna be living with a lot of shame and guilt. So it's gonna be a healing process. So, but as a community, just provide them that safe place, give them listening ears, acknowledge their pain, give them time to process the grief. Just be there for them, and then offer them the resources that they can seek, like therapy or counseling.
Absolutely. This is great. Thank you, Dr. Clara. Margaret,
Oui,
question?
avant question, gen Florence Desrosiers qui gon commentaire, m'a pris fait commentaire li avant. Si Geta m'a posé question.
OK. Florence?
Oui, merci. M'te juste besoin clarifier et commentaire que m'te fait au sujet de pour parents yo et quitter que Timoun yo parlé avec provider yo. C'est surtout, alors bien entendu en Haïti, il est un petit peu différent, mais dans visite régulière en pédiatre, gagner toujours en partie côté que pédiatre là, même si Timoun nan gen 10 ans, bon pas 10 ans, mais commencer avec adolescence li, jusqu'à des fois 17, 18 ans, côté que pédiatre là, besoin en conversation, même si c'est en 5 minutes avec Timoun nan, et que li mande pour parents, retan de yo. Mais généralement, ça privé par eux dit que ça coûte ça, Timoun nan gen la baka di devant nan la. Donc, le fait que dit ça seulement, tout le monde a juste bloqué le pas dire rien, alors que si c'est minutes ça, c'est qu'à
Yeah.
permettre et disons c'est de bail que le pas partager avec parents. Et puis,
You've been want.
exactement. Et puis, sous même là, c'est ça, comme moi, t'es arrivé un petit peu en retard, je ne sais pas de si docteur Clara t'a parlé de ça. Il y a un phénomène, bon, bien entendu, dans la communauté haïtienne, il y a encore plus pesant sous Timounio, c'est sexualité. Yo. Puis, on est capable d'affirmer sexualité. Yo. Grand pile Timoun qui gagne des tendances ou bien encore qui homosexuel, mais qui pas capable de point de vue culturel, religieux, etc., qui pas capable d'affirmer. Yo. Donc, ça fait que Timoun vient un peu plus déprimé. Et puis, avec ça, il y a d'autres idées dans la tête qui viennent évoluer. Donc, ça a comme causé des problèmes très graves, surtout dans la communauté noire, communauté haïtienne. Et de ça, que nous ajouter.
So Dr. Clara, she was just kind of sharing that, especially in our community, in the Haitian community, in terms of sexual identity, that's also one of the precursors or risk factors, you would say, that children has a heightened sense of depression that also can lead to suicide, but also to, again, to provide that safe space. I think we have to kind of reaffirm that, to provide a safe space for the child, to provide that emotional nurturing, to check in, to have those conversations. So Dr. Clara, when you think about sexual identity and suicide, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, they are a high risk population because a lot of time with the sexual identity, sometimes the kids are struggling with coming out to their parents. So that's where the stress and anxiety comes from. Or maybe they feel like they're going to be rejected. With some of them have been rejected by parents just because they came out. So that's put them at a very high risk when it comes to suicide. So yes, that population is a very high risk. So we see them most of the time, and we just provide them with help. They are in therapy already.
Absolutely. And I've worked, with Haitian teens, and one of the things that they'll say is, my mom changed a lot. So my mom kicked me out of the house because they found out that I was identified as trans or homosexual or lesbian, right? So those things, those tactics, parents think like, oh, if I leave them out, they'll eventually change. Simbatli, right? Beating the child to the point where they'll convert, right? Thinking that, okay, maybe if I beat it out of them, they're going to be better, right? Or using religion as a way to kind of like shame them. Bon Dieu, Jésus, non, nous pas fait ça. C'est catholique, c'est Christian that you are, you don't do those things. So thank you for sharing that. Margaret, let's go. We have about maybe 5-10 minutes before we wrap up. Nous pas trop longtemps là, So go ahead, Margaret.
Oui. Est-ce que si gagne un premier cas de suicide dans la famille, est-ce que le mettez plus à risque que l'autre cas de suicide? Est-ce que mon ça dit que tu as une attention plus spéciale?
So, Dr. Clara, the question is, if there is one case of suicide within a family dynamic or family system, does that predispose them for maybe further suicidal attempts or ideation within that family system?
Yes, family history put them at high risk. Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Jeanette,
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Est-ce que histoire pays côté moun nan vive là, est-ce que histoire pays ça, est-ce que ça ka passe dans pays ça, côté moun ça qui vulnérable là, est-ce que ça a un impact direct sur augmentation risque pour moun ça commettre suicide, passer à l'acte, touyer tête li?
That's a good question. Thank you, Janan. So the question is the physical geographical location or country or place of residence of the actual person, does that have a direct correlation to the risk factor, to the increase of potentiality for suicidality?
I don't think so specifically, because suicide could be committed by different means. It could just be pills. You have access to pills at home. You know, it could be gun. You can have access to gun at home. So I don't think the physical location would determine the risks. Not too sure on that one. Maybe that's something I have to look into it.
Yeah, or maybe like where the person is.
Yeah.
When you say physical location, like what do you mean by that? Like where the person is located at that time or where they grow up?
The history.
I would rather say a violent history.
A violent history.
I mean, I think the environment can dictate. Côté moun nan jan moun nan grandi a, l'environnement grandi a, like the environment they grow up in. Par vrai sa moun nan jan moun nan leve a. I think that all plays an important factor in who they become, right?
Yeah.
Parce que ça vient parfois that can how they're raised and brought up can help them to have full confidence or can have no self-confidence, right?
That's right.
A lot of times that can be a factor. Sometimes if they're raised in a chaotic environment.
Yes.
Right? So environment plays a big role and these plays a big role in these factors. But
absolutely.
If that is
geographic. Right.
And I think it was also on the slides Dr. Clara was sharing.
Yeah, the environment, right? Violence.
Risk factors, you know, if you're in a community where it's gang violence, if you're in a community where it's the high risk of poverty, if you know, so all these different things do play in terms of the potentiality for a person to be more at risk of suicide. Absolutely.
Yes. Et puis drogue aussi, l'environnement côté gang de drogue. Pas vrai, parfois, le monde dans son drogue addict, ça vient poser que décisions différentes, genre où la vie est différente, que genre un monde qui travaille, un monde qui full of life, you know, where la vie est. So, that's another factor too.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Katia. Margaret, we'll take about 2-3 more. Et communauté in the meantime, bral metton question là sous screen nan. Nous ta reme konnen ki kote nou ye nan comme si nan le monde. So map launch li là sou ka répondre, nou ka répondre sous téléphone, sous computer, sous laptop, iPad, wherever you at. Répondre question. So Margaret, in the meantime, pose question.
Très bien. Bon, un commentaire qui est très important. Depuis où vous arrivez dans une situation que tu as serré ciseaux, ou as serré couteau, ou as serré comprimé, ou as veillé, c'est le moment qu'on a besoin d'aide. Le moment que mon nom, c'est aller dans l'urgence. En dernière question, est-ce que les familles allemandes d'aide pour un petit, pour une famille qui gagne des idées suicidaires, est-ce que ça veut dire qu'on sont mauvais parents?
Ooh. Dr. Clara, the question is, you know, if a family member or a parent asks for help because they have maybe a family member or a child that has potential maybe suicidal ideation, does that make them a bad parent, a bad caregiver, a bad adult?
It makes them an awesome parent because you actually reaching out for help. It's when you don't reach out for help makes you the bad parent.
That makes you the bad parent, right? Well,
That's
not
it.
the bad parent.
Yeah.
The emotionally disconnected parent. Right?
That's right. That's right. So a parent in denial. Right?
Yes, in denial.
Yeah.
So asking for help is strength. It's actually strength. It's not weakness. So you are a good parent doing that. Yes.
Absolument. Margaret, une autre question?
Pas une autre question non sur groupe là.
Okay.
I do. I have one comment.
Go ahead, Marie.
Là, nous dit ça par rapport à est-ce que nous sommes mauvais ou bons parents, ou connaît que nous qu'on dit dans la culture, nous, si nous connaissons toujours trop tard. Donc, si vous faites un bagage, pas fatigué de jugement, ça, moun pral dit parce qu'il est trop tard. Pas discuter et puis trop tard. Vous comprenez?
Absolutely.
Pas quitter poids, jugement, empêcher ou faire ça, ouais, qui est nécessaire pour ta faire. Parce que c'est parce qu'on est bon parent qu'il faut dire, ne pas quitter ça arriver, même s'il fait mal, pour mal porter l'aller.
That's it.
Porter l'aller.
Yeah, on va pas yes.
On dit tout, on dépense à cause des docteurs, en pile fois, lorsque nous travaillons avec un jeune, et il y a des bagages que nous pas capable répéter par li, tout ça le dit, mais il y a des bagages que nous venons observer, nous cherchons parler avec parents, et en pile fois dans la communauté noire, parents ça ont blâmé, on disait ça soit que a mettre balle dans tête li. C'est très très commun. Et malgré tout, nous obligés de parler parce que avec parents, parce que dans tout ça qui fait dans en famille ou bien on a loué un thérapeute, la loué un professionnel, c'est confidentiel. C'est bon bagage que nous mettons dans la rue, c'est bon bagage où on parler avec n'importe monde. Ou bien nous avons un monde que on a traité ou croiser moun dans l'autre contexte ou moun n'a pas connaît ou pas connaît. Donc c'est façon pour moi dire nous pas besoin peur et adresser un professionnel parce que confidentialité c'est très 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 important, c'est bagage qui respecté.
Absolutely. All right, so we're gonna last call a Mounki now, comme si audience lan sougen des dernières questions. We're gonna wrap up now. Before we go, we want to definitely thank Dr. Clara for her wisdom, her strategies, her assistance. Please, 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 if you have questions, now is the time to ask. Again, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be ashamed to ask. Pas parce que vous demandez des questions, ça veut dire que, oh, mon va penser que c'est de moi-même m'a parlé. No, right? Again, we need to have these difficult conversations to move forward, right? So, est-ce qu'il y a une question? Non, just n'importe monde qui a une question. All right. Any final questions? Any final thoughts? All right. So, Reginald, go ahead.
Et donc, je voulais juste remercier nous pour nous venir là. Et je pense que parce que pas de question, ça montre nous qui j'en une question. Parce que silence, c'est l'heure où est 26 moun garder silence, ça montre au poids conversation. Donc, je suis que nous toutes là, et ça me rien nous. Et nous prenons tout le temps ça pour nous parler d'un sujet qui est très difficile. Donc, silence, c'est un gros bagage. Ça montrait, Jean, que le sujet, ça lourd. Et que le bagage, c'est pas même qu'à mettre mots sur eux, tellement ils pesent nous.
Absolutely. Like Carol said in the chat, food for thought. Absolutely. This hopefully can help you to start the conversation with family, friends, or even not even start a conversation, but to start observing. To commencer comme si watch and pay attention, listen, and also pay attention. I think somebody on the panel was saying, you know, if someone is maybe presenting disheveled, you're pas content anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason for that. See, all of a sudden, you commence à boire, they start drinking. You fatigué comme si dog. You know, you pas aller au travail, you fatigué tout le temps. Woman ça veut dire you pas sorti avec amis. All these are signs that we need to pay attention to. Okay, c'est pas juste you know, maybe they're going through something. Oh, you know, si yo pedi travail because they're not showing up. There's a reason, okay? So please, please, please reach out to loved ones, friends, family, your children. You know, Jenan bral kite e fè an summary pour même, et so we can kind of wrap it up. Nou gen 11 moun ki repon question ki sou ekran, oui? Kote nou ye dans le monde, USA, Canada, Haïti, Cameroon, ou bien if you're somewhere else in the world, please select other. Nous besoin ça pour nous faire bilan, pour nous ça connaître côté moun yo sorti. So, Jenan.
OK, eh ben nous capables de dire que Après session jeudi, hein, Jean-Réginald dit qu'ils sont session qui chargée, causée, qui croise jambes sous l'estomac, nous, qui aider nous, qui force nous. On learn to learn. Après session ça, nous est que suicide, c'est un bagage qui lourd, qui est important, qui sont problèmes graves liés, sont problèmes en société, en pays, c'est problème monde. C'est un problème tout que nous pas capable de continuer fermer bouche nous sous lit, que nous gain tabou sous lit. Nous pas capable continuer faire ça. Moment pas sous ça. Tant trop difficile. C'est pour nous aller, c'est pour nous parler, c'est pour nous proches. Tout le monde qui autour de nous, amis, nos familles, nos petits, en particulier, teenagers, faut nous prêter attention à ça y a vivre, faut nous valoriser l'émotion qu'a traversé. Tout c'est vrai qui est important. Parce qu'avec suicide là, ou pas gen fait bac là-dedans, ni fait, ni rive, net, Jean-Marie dit. Hein. Donc, c'est pour nous valoriser le moment présent, pour nous bal poids, pour nous ouvrir cœur, nous ouvrir attention, nous, et bay moun qui autour de nous, bay teenagers surtout, qui vulnérables. Nous, est tout que, yon famille qui a vécu suicide, son famille qui n'ont gros chagrin, qui ont gros douleur, non gros trauma. Donc, c'est pour nous pas stigmatiser, pas bayo label, pour nous pas bayo non poté, pour nous pas dire que yo son famille qui damné. Non, ceci là qui arrive n'importe qui, n'importe monde. Nous ne pas exempt de lui. Son problème sérieux qui demande en pile attention et moun k'ap vive difficulté yo, c'est pour nous bayo respect, c'est pour nous bayo attention, faut nous bayo l'amour. Qui ça nous encore? Nous voyons que l'environnement, son bagage qui est important, qui a affecté la capacité au monde pour les gérer l'émotion. Là où un environnement qui c'est coup sous coup, pas jamais prendre souffle, oui, il pas aider. Il a augmenté le risque pour laguer ça. Nous parler de importance pour tout professionnel santé, gain une connaissance sur tous les outils qui sont disponibles, toutes tactiques qui sont joindre pour détecter yon monde qui t'a vle, qui t'a tendance à aller sur route là pour lui commettre zak là ou bien qu'on fait tête li tort que fait et col tort parce que la vie un bagage qui est difficile. Donc, par contre, qui ça me t'a dit encore?
Ok, très bien, très bien.
Thank you. Son bagage qui est important, son bagage qui est pour nous bailler valeur, son bagage pour nous oublier que c'est taboulier, son bagage pour nous mettre en lait, parce que dans le temps de vivre, nous avons un pile challenge qui passe pas nous, dans le temps pas nous. Donc, il faut que nous soyons capables ouvert à ça pour nous tendre. Et si nous voyons que émotionnellement, nous ne sommes pas capables de gérer, nous référer à un professionnel santé qui est capable d'écouter des tactiques pour aider. Moi, je dis tout le monde merci parce que c'est un temps que nous prenons pour nous tendre, ça nous gain pour dépoter pour nous. Nous apprécions ça en pile. Nous dit docteur Clara Njekam, merci que le mettez.
Nous 75%, Canada 8%.
Oh,
Haïti,
que le mettez connaissance li, expérience li et situation familiale que l'accepter vulnérable devant nous toutes et que nous nous partager ça nous vivre ça son bagage qui est extraordinaire et nous dit nous toutes et nous dit docteur Clara Njekam merci. Prochain rendez-vous nous panel là nous compte saluer qui le prochain rendez-vous tout le monde a dit c'est dans le mois d'avril, deuxième jeudi du mois, qui dit donc c'est le 10 avril. Nous souhaitons nous toutes venir, nous participer avec nous. Et puis, il faut me dire nous tout que enregistrement, ça nous fait, je dis, la valable son chaîne YouTube. Et chaîne YouTube et chaîne Family, nous sommes capables la partie de semaine prochaine et nous sommes toujours capables de continuer à poser des questions, faire commentaires sur lui pendant longtemps et puis nous-mêmes, nous avons essayé de faire ça capable pour nous répondre. Voilà.
All right. Merci, Jenna. Dr. Clara, any final words before we wrap up and close?
Yeah, so was that a summary she was putting all together?
Yes.
Yes.
She seems to have done an awesome job. I was trying to follow.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, good job. So in conclusion, I just want to encourage everyone, and we're going to continue to spread the news and educate our loved ones and friends and family, just creating a culture of openness around mental health so that individuals know that these things, it's not a sign of weakness. If you get up and say, I feel sad, it's okay to feel sad. We just want to encourage them to be able to express that emotion, to be vulnerable enough. And so just creating that safe place of being non-judgmental and be present and just listen and ask them how they're doing genuinely, and listen when they talk, not just being there when you're on your phone and distracted. Be present. So let us build a community where we can support teens or support anyone that struggles with mental health. Just be there for them. Create a safe place, listen. And if you identify any of the signs that we just talked about, that doesn't have to be too drastic, it could be just so subtle as them just withdrawing from the community. Those are signs. Please be asking them questions and see if they need additional support. If you and I can provide them that support, refer them to professionals so they can get the appropriate support. So
absolutely. Thank you. Nous dit tout le monde, nous remercier tout le monde. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. We're gonna close out with a nice little tune, musique ole ole. Sou konen ki eski joué ole ole ah. Put it in the chat, all right? If you know the name of the artist. In the meantime, nous dit tout le monde, bonsoir.
Bye. Thank you so much, Dr. Clara. Thank you. Really appreciate you.
Self-care.
Yeah.